Hello, BookTube. I have some new releases for you. These are new books or forthcoming books that are already open. No wrestling with packages, no complaining about adhesives or labels or pull tabs or anything like that. New things that may be of interest to you. Some of them may be more interest to you than they are to me. So I thought we'd go through them. I've read a couple of these, and I don't think any of them have appeared on this channel. The first one is from September, so a long way off. This is by Ling Ma, who wrote Severance, that a lot of you probably know about. This is a collection of short stories called Bliss Montage. Those are apples in a plastic bag, or oranges in a plastic bag. I don't have a sheet. I don't think I have a sheet for many of these things. But let's see here. The stories of Bliss Montage crash through our carefully built mirages. What happens when fantasy tears the screen of the everyday to wake us up? Could that waking be our end? In this collection, the author brings us 8 wildly different tales of people making their way through the madness and reality of our collective delusions. Love and loneliness, connection and possession, friendship, motherhood, and the idea of home. A woman lives in a house with all her ex-boyfriends. A toxic friendship grows up around a drug that makes you invisible. An ancient ritual might heal you of anything if you bury yourself alive. These and other scenarios investigate the ways that the outlandish and the ordinary are shockingly, deceptively, heartbreakingly alike. Like I've mentioned in the past, it's a thankless task to write a blurb of any kind for short story collections or modern poetry, but some of those premises do sound interesting. So that's Bliss Montage, Ling Ma. Then we have, I think this is a debut. This is by Jonathan Escoffery, and it is called. Yes, this is a debut. This comes out in again September, and this is If I Survive You, which has blurbs on the back from Amy Bender, Percival Everett, Ruman Alam. So what have we got here? This follows the Jamaican family striving for more in Miami, and introduces what the publicity material here is calling a generational storyteller. In the 1970s, Topper and Sonia flee to Miami as political violence consumes their native Kingston. But America, as the couple and their 2 children learn, is far from the promised land. Excluded from society as black immigrants, the family pushes on first through Hurricane Andrew and later the 2008 recession, living in a house so cursed that the pet fish launches itself out of its tank rather than stay. That's pretty bad. But even as things fall apart, the family remains motivated, often to its own detriment, by what their younger son Trelawney calls the exquisite, racking compulsion to survive. So we can see right away here at least one of the surefire signs that you are reading a work of contemporary literary fiction in current year, which is that none of the characters will have no ordinary names. They'll all have names out of the Chronicles of Narnia. No reason is ever given for this, and I know that if you were to ask these writers, I know what their reason would be if you got them just a little tipsy, so that you knew they were telling the truth. They'd say, well, the ordinary names bored me. So the father is Topper, the mother is Sonia, and the son is Trelawney. Masterfully constructed with heart and humor, If I Survive You centers on Trelawney as he struggles to carve out a place for himself amid financial disaster, racism, and flat-out bad luck. After a fight with Topper, himself reckoning with failures as a parent and his longing for Jamaica, where names like Topper and Sonia and Trelawney are common, and I guarantee you beyond a shadow of a doubt that if we get another character in this synopsis, they also will have a weird, downright odd name. Because, why work to make your work distinctive if you can simply name your characters that way? Trelawney claws his way out of homelessness through a series of odd, often hilarious jobs. Meanwhile, his brother, Delano, that's as in Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Trelawney's brother is Delano. Attempts a disastrous cash grab to get his kids back. And his cousin Kooky, It's Cukie, searches for a father who doesn't want to be found. As each character searches for a foothold, they never forget the profound danger of climbing without a safety net. The profound danger of climbing without a safety net is something that Cookie, Delano, Trelawney, Topper, and Sonia never forget. Maybe at the end of the book, this debut, they really learn that lesson from Aslan, the mystic lion. So who do we know about Jonathan Escoffery? He's the recipient of the 2020 Plimpton Prize for Fiction, 2020 National Endowment for the Arts of Literature Fellowship, and 2020 ASME Award for Fiction. He's set up for money. His fiction has appeared in the Paris Review, American Short Fiction, Prairie Schooner, Agni, etc., etc. He received his MFA from the University of Minnesota, as a PhD in the University of Southern California's Creative Writing Program, and in 2021 was awarded a Wallace Stegner Fellowship in Creative Writing Program at Stanford University. Okay, so he's had about as stellar a background as you can get. The fact that the characters are called Thranduil and Admiral Pike and Dumbledore is a product of him coming through an MFA program. No one in the world is called Delano. No one in the world is called Trelawney. No one in the world is called Cookie. But it doesn't matter. I'm sure that the thing that bothers me about it is not just the name. It's not just what if a name. This is a debut work. It could be great. That's one of the things I love about debut novels is that they have the whole world of possibilities in front of them, and I am willing to grant them any of that. What bothers me is that the names are usually an outward sigil for something far worse, far deeper, which is that not only are the characters named out of fantasy, but they don't act like they're in the real world. So they'll be waiting on a counter selling sunglasses and making whatever under the counter, dollars and pennies their proprietor can give them at the end of the week. And then a third of the way through the novel, they'll decide that they need to go on a quest to Tokyo. And nowhere in the novel ever is it even remotely hinted at as to how they get the $1,000 they need for the plane fare and the hotel fare. It's just something the author wants to happen, and it's a fantasy land anyway. So, and I have found that one of the outward-facing symbols of that detachment from reality is naming your characters, pixie dust or whatever. But we shall see. The book could still be great. Then we have a heavily illustrated thing from Thames and Hudson. In their artists, what is the name of this thing? It's a monograph on art. Well, we'll get to it because there's a pub sheet for it. This is a series that they do. Maybe it's going to tell me. Yes, the World of Art series. This is Thames and Hudson's The World of Art series, and this one is dedicated to Raphael, the painter Raphael. This is by Paul Joannides, and it's all about one of the most influential painters in the history of art, written by a preeminent authority on the subject. More versatile and less idiosyncratic than Michelangelo, more prolific and accessible than his mentor Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael is considered the single most influential artist of the Renaissance, though he died at only 37. While he is sometimes referred to as the paradigm of classicism and the main source of an academic tradition that flows through 350 years of subsequent European painting, his art historical significance is much greater. His wide-ranging production, stylistic adventurousness, and limitless invention make him a permanent reference point for later artists. So this is a look at Raphael. This will be, all of Vasari has to say on it. It'll be everything that we know about him. And more importantly, this thing is a paperback original at $24. And you really get your money's worth. You get literally everything that Raphael ever did, and also lots and lots of connected works that may have inspired him or may have been contemporary to him. Just an amazing value for $24. So I wanted to show it to you. Definitely, this comes out, I think, in the summer. Is that right? Yes, this comes out in July, in late July. Then we have one that naturally appeals to me. This doesn't come out for a while. Yeah, this doesn't come out until October. I'm really tempted to read it early, but I can't really justify that. This is by Ray Naylor, and it is called The Mountains in the Sea. And I think you're really going to be intrigued by the description. I don't have a sheet for it, but I think there are going to be quite a few of you who are going to want to add this to your list. Rumors begin to spread of a species of hyper-intelligent, dangerous octopus that may have developed a language of its own and a culture. The marine biologist Dr. Ha Nguyen has spent her life researching the cephalopod intelligence and will do anything for the chance to study them. The transnational tech corporation Diamnima has sealed the remote Condau archipelago where the octopuses were discovered off from the world. Dr. Nguyen joins Dianima's team on the islands, a battle-scarred security agent and the world's first android. The octopuses hold the key to unprecedented breakthroughs in extra-human intelligence. The stakes are high. There are vast fortunes to be made by whoever can take advantage of the octopus's advancements, and as Dr. Nguyen struggles to communicate with the newly discovered species, forces larger than Dianima close in to seize the octopuses for themselves. But no one has yet asked the octopuses what they think and what they might do about it. This is a near-future thriller about the nature of consciousness, and this is Ray Naylor's debut. I am really intrigued by that. I really want to get to it. I won't. I will leave it, but I really want to get to it. Then we have another book that may be familiar to quite a few of you. This is the new book by Tom Perrotta. It's his sequel to his novel Election. And this is Tracy Flick Can't Win, where we meet the main character of Election only later in life. Tracy Flick is back, and once again, the iconic protagonist of Tom Perrotta's novel Election is determined to take high school politics by storm. Now in her 40s, Tracy is a hardworking assistant principal at a public high school in suburban New Jersey. Feeling stuck and underappreciated in midlife, Tracy gets a jolt of good news when her school's longtime principal abruptly announces his retirement. Is she a shoo-in? Will she get the job? Will she have to campaign for it? Excited by the opportunity to claim the top job, Tracy throws herself into her work with renewed zeal. At the same time, the hiring process triggers troubling memories about her own high school experiences, as well as her more recent personal and professional disappointments. As she broods on the past, Tracy becomes aware of a storm clouds brewing in the present. Is she really a shoo-in for the principal job? Is the superintendent plotting against her? Why is the school board president's wife trying so hard to be her friend? Why can't she ever get what she deserves? Now, I don't think I'm alone in thinking that Election would not be as well known or even as affectionately regarded if it weren't for the brilliant movie adaptation. I think that book lives in people's minds as a movie, not as a book. Here's the sequel. It would be very, very interesting to get a sequel movie if you could assemble the right people. Do I have a date on this? This comes out on June 7th, so first week of June. These last three are hardcovers, so they probably are imminent. This next one is by Deborah Rienstra, and it is Refugia Faith, Seeking Hidden Shelters, Ordinary Wonders, and the Healing of the Earth. Refugia Faith. And I want to show you the book is very minimally, very elegantly illustrated all throughout. I don't have a sheet on this one, but I want to read it to you. In this book, the author recounts her own process of re-education, beginning not as a scientist or as an outdoors enthusiast, but by examining the wisdom of theologians and philosophers, farmers and nature writers, scientists and activists, and especially people on the margins. Refugia Faith speaks to people securely within the faith, as well as to those on the edge, providing a suitable entry for those who sense that this era of upheaval requires a transformed faith, but who don't quite know where to begin. And to define our terminology, refugia are places to find shelter, but only for a time. More importantly, refugia are places to begin, places where the tender and harrowing work of reconstruction and renewal takes root. I don't have a sheet on this, so I don't know when it comes out. I imagine early June. But this is fantastic. It's a great book. And it's going to appeal to very particular readership. I'd be recommending it to now, and that is Christians who aren't crazy. And that's quite a few. That's the majority. But I imagine if you're in that majority, you're probably as sick as I am of all the so-called Christians that are out there who are just nuts. They're vicious, evil, they're dumb, they're science denying. You pick up a so-called Christian book, a so-called Christian new release, and what do you find? You want to read a thoughtful meditation on your faith, and instead you find some undereducated yahoo spending 100 pages of their book that's allegedly dedicated to glorifying the name of God, saying that Charles Darwin was an alcoholic and that evolution by means of natural selection is all false. It's unbelievably documented. That astronomy is all false. It's unbelievably documented. Enough of those books in a row, certainly I get enough of those books in any week, to make me think that Christian books, Christian theme books, are just default dumb, mean, Bible tent type nonsense. To the point where you start to yearn for intelligent Christianity. For an intelligent Christianity, whereas in the case of this book, reminds Christian readers that they are enjoined to be faithful stewards of the world, of the natural world. This book will, no pun intended, restore your faith in Christian-themed meditations on anything, but especially in this case, climate change and the natural world. Seeking renewal, but also seeking change, seeking solutions, seeking to roll up your sleeves and put your hands in to the work of making things better, which is despite a great cancerous prevalence on the Christian faith in the 21st century of people who think that it's all about getting rich and then getting to heaven. The mandate of Christianity is actually to roll up your sleeves and make the world a better place now. And this book is all about that. I cannot recommend it strongly enough. So I don't know when it's out exactly, but if that suits you, if you are, let's say, a believing Christian who's not dumb or evil, as you may, like me, you may be despairing that such people don't exist anymore. But if you're a believing Christian who's not dumb or evil, and maybe you care about the natural world, maybe you have a section of the community garden or a garden of your own, Refugia Faith is a book that you will probably really, really like. And then the last book we have here is, when I read the description of it, the first thing that came to mind was long overdue. So I don't know how good the book is. I haven't read it yet, but the subject matter has long deserved to be studied in a popular book. This is by Riverhead Books, so this will be in bookstores. This is by Caleb Gale, and it's called We Refuse to Forget, a true story of Black Creek's American identity and power. And this is Caleb Gale, I guess, is an award-winning journalist, and this is a landmark work of history that reconfigures our understanding of race, identity, and belonging as it explores the inspiring ways marginalized people have pushed to redefine their world. It's a historical examination of the relationship among slavery, the Creek Nation, and the U.S. government as a reflection of how our current understanding of how that history has defined identity, race, and belonging in this country. Okay, that's all from someone's summary, but let me read you from the dust jacket here. Because this tells the story of the Creek Nation, a native tribe that 2 centuries ago both owned slaves and accepted black people as full citizens. Thanks to the efforts of Crow leaders like Cow Tom, a Black Creek citizen who rose to become chief, the U.S. government recognized Creek's citizenship in 1866 for its black members. Yet this equality was shredded in the 1970s when tribal leaders revoked the citizenship of Black Creeks, even those who could trace their history back generations to Cow Tom himself. Why did this happen? How was the U.S. government involved? And what are Cow Tom's descendants and other Black Creeks doing to regain their citizenship? These are some of the questions that Gale explores in this provocative examination of racial and ethnic identity. By delving into the history and interviewing Black Creeks who are fighting to have their citizenship reinstated, he lays bare the racism and greed at the heart of the story. That sounds just fascinating to me. And, like I say, long overdue. I don't think this has been explored in any great detail in a popular book, ever. So, so that's fantastic. So, We Refuse to Forget is the last of these new releases. So we have We Refuse to Forget about upheavals in the Creek Nation that a lot of other people, non-Creeks, might not know about. Then we have Refugia Faith, being a Christian in the natural world today, which is under siege in the world of climate change. We have Tracy Flick Can't Win by Tom Perrotta. A little bit of variety here, of course, as always on this channel. We have The Mountains in the Sea, about a new, hyper-intelligent, and slightly belligerent species of octopus. We have The World of Art. This is their volume on Raphael. $24 for a heavy paper, elaborately illustrated full collection of Raphael's work. You can't beat that. If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffery. This is a debut coming out in the autumn. And finally, Bliss Montage, stories by the author of Severance. So there you go. There are some new releases for you on a Friday. This is going to have to double as a Friday reads for me. I'm going to be reading the Tom Perrotta and We Refuse to Forget this weekend, but they go on a big pile, so that's not a full Friday reads. But I thought you might be interested in some of them, so that's why I showed them to you today. But I'm going to wrap this up for now. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.